Good afternoon and welcome to the porch. Well, it's time to make another inspirational video, and so we want to welcome you guys. We hope that we say something will be of benefit to you. And by the way, before I get started, let me ask you to do me a favor, if you will. I'd like to ask you to subscribe if you get any benefit out of these videos at all. I'd like to ask you to hit like, comment, and share, because what that does is it gets us a little bit better shape with the YouTube algorithm, and it gets this message out to more people. Now, if this message will help people, that's good. If it's not going to help people, then of course there's no need in doing it. That's up to you. But anyway, we design these inspirational talks just to encourage people, to give information, to help people to better manage their lives. So having said that, let's go ahead, get on into the subject for today. And my throat's a little dry, so I may have to stop and take a drink of water just every few minutes, but just bear with me. But anyway, the inspirational subject for today is the world is turned upside down, and many people are concerned, and they're saying, what do I do? Everywhere I look, somebody's asking this question in one form or the other. Whether I see people on a personal level, they'll talk to me about this. I see people on the level of watching videos and newscasts and various things like that, and I see the same thing. Well, we got a lot of wars going on, and they're not just small wars. They're pretty devastating wars. A lot of folks are losing their lives in these wars, and that's sad. That's just always sad. And so we look at it, and it's upside down. We see corruption in our governments all over the world. It's not just here in the United States, it's everywhere. And it's like, what do we do? What can we do? And I gave this a great deal of thought this week. Not that I hadn't been thinking about it before. The fact of the matter is, I've been thinking about it for well over 40 years that I know about. But when people look at it, they get in despair. They can't see a way out. They don't know what they can do to make a difference. And the question, I guess, is this: is there anything we can do to make a difference? Well, here's the good news. The good news is that we can. Now, I'm going to explain that to you, but I want to tell you a story, and then we'll go more into an explanation. And I will say this: if you'll stick with me all the way through this video, I'm going to give you about 3 pieces of information that really are life-changing. And it's not just life-changing for you, but it's going to be life-changing for the world that you live in. And we got to set another course, guys. But let me tell you the story. Back between somewhere around 21 years old to probably 30, I tried very hard to be an atheist. I actually worked at it. I hung around people that were atheists. I talked about atheism and why there wasn't any God and how ridiculous that sounded and all of those things. And I thought I had myself convinced, because I put a few years in to try to be a good atheist. I thought in this day and time, it's just silly to believe in anything that might be supernatural. And I remember I was watching a newscast, and that's over 40 years ago, guys. And our world in pretty bad shape then, and it's gotten worse. We're on the brink of World War III here, so we better get serious about what needs to change here. But anyway, I was watching the newscast, and I walked out my front yard after it was over with, and I never will forget. I know exactly where I was standing and everything. It's been over 40 years ago, and I still remember this so clearly. And I said, well, it's these stupid politicians that got us into this mess. And there was some validity to that thought that I was having. And there was another thought to come to my mind, and the thought was, well, if you're so smart, what would you do about this world? If you were king of the world, how would you fix it? And I thought, well, all right, I can answer that. Well, I looked at one problem in my mind, and I started fixing it. Well, when I started fixing it, there was another problem that was created because of that problem. So I went over and started trying to fix that one in my mind, and I did that for just a little while. And it didn't take much of that until I realized that I didn't have the answers to this broken world. I just didn't. And I thought I was pretty smart back in those days. I hung around educated people. I spent a lot of time getting education, educating myself, and getting education from other places that were available to me. But as smart as I thought I wasn't even close to being able to solve the world's problems. And as I said, it didn't take me long to understand that. Now, here's what happened, guys. This is a weird thing, but I'm just telling you the experience that I had here. I said this not out loud like I'm talking right now, but just kind of almost just above a whisper. I said, well, I'll tell you what, if there ain't a God in heaven to help us straighten this out, we're in a lot of trouble. Now, I'm an atheist at this time. Well, I said I was an atheist. A statement like that, you start to wonder how good your atheism is holding up. Well, it wasn't holding up too good when a couple of years after that till I realized that there was a God. Now, I said all that to get on into the subject matter a little deeper. I'm just setting the stage. But the thing about it is, that's where we're at today, isn't it, guys? Think about it. We think that we can solve the world's problems by voting this one in, voting that one in, doing this and doing that. And those things do make a difference, okay? I don't want to take away from that. We need to make good decisions and things like that. But if we as men can solve the world's problems, here's the question I got to ask. And I've been watching this for 4 or 5 decades. And the question is simply this: how come we haven't solved it? How come it's worse now than it was 40, 50 years ago? Well, it's because we can't solve it. And the statement that came out of my mouth was probably as true a thing as I've ever said. And that come out of the mouth of at least a proclaimed atheist, is if there ain't a God in heaven, we're in trouble. Well, there is a God in heaven, and we're in trouble. Now, wait a minute. That don't sound right. Well, yeah, it does sound right when you think about it. There is a God in heaven, but we as men think we're going to solve this on our own, so we haven't involved the God in heaven. And until we do, this thing's not going to get any better. Now, the number one thing is to realize that we can't fix it. We haven't fixed it, and it's very doubtful. Well, I'm 100% sure we're not going to fix it without some kind of divine intervention. So that's number one. Now, number two is, a person would say, what does it take to fix it? Let me interject this, and I may hackle some people's feathers a little bit when I say this, but if you're a person of prayer, I would encourage you to increase those prayers. If you're not a person of prayer, I would encourage you to reconsider that. Okay, that's up to you. I'm just putting it out there as straight as I know how. Now, let's move to another stage of this inspirational talk, because you can point out problems, but at some point you got to start talking about how to solve them. Prayer is one way to start solving those problems. Here's what happens when you become a person of prayer, and this is another section of the video here, is somehow you start to get hope when you do that. Now, I went through this in my life. I went through a bad time, went through a few bad times in my life. But when you start praying, hope will come. And a person may say, well, what is hope? Well, let's talk about what hope really is. Hope is when you define what it is you would like for your life to be, or that you would like for this world to be, or your community, or your marriage. So you define that, and that is your hope. It's goal setting. For some of you more business-minded people, you set a goal. Now, if you're business-minded at all, you know that if you can't get that accomplished, you're not going anywhere, and things are not going to change. You're going to keep having the same old, and if it's not good, you don't want that. So hope is set a goal, and I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of an illustration of that. I was sitting there in my office the other night thinking, and somehow I could see a picture in my mind's eye of a little child, and I could I could see he was really, really thin. It wasn't eating hardly anything, and he was. It's kind of hard for me to talk about this, but I'm going to try. Uh, he was asking his mama for something to eat, and she didn't have anything. She was crying, and she had to put that baby to bed hungry. Now, I don't know about you guys, but all of my needs and what I want seem to fade away when I see something like that. So I thought, you know what? And the question came to mind. Let me just kind of try to get this organized. The question came to mind, what do you want this world to look like, Paul? And I said, I want that baby to be fed. I want that mama to have a smile on her face. I want that mama to have a husband sitting on the front porch beside her on the porch swing, drinking coffee and watching them babies play in the yard and laugh and have a good time and them smiling. And I want them to go to a supper table where there's food on the supper table. And I want to see them babies tucked into a warm bed. Now, you may say, Paul, you're sounding pretty tough on this, pretty loud on this. Well, I have to, because don't I cry? But anyway, that's what I want. That's my hope. I don't know what your hope is, but if you're just hoping for something for yourself, that's part of the reason this world's in the condition that it's in, is our hopes are in the wrong place sometimes. So there's my hope. Now you may say, well, okay, there's hope. Well, there's also faith to consider. Let me explain to you what faith is. Hope is setting a goal. Faith is taking a step toward that goal. What can I do to make a difference? Well, I can educate people the best way I can. I can give good information out. If I see a mission in my local town that gives people food and feed them, I need to support that mission. I need to give them money or take them food or whatever I need to do to make that better. There's things I can do by faith. What I mean, faith is just action. Faith is moving toward the goal, toward your hope. I want them babies fed. I want them mamas and daddies to be happy. I don't want that daddy out drinking or partying or doing drugs and doing stupid stuff. I want him home with his family. I want him doing what a daddy ought to do. I want that family to be happy. So that's the hope that I have. I don't know what your hope is, but that's just an illustration of what my hope is, and it's very genuine. Now, having said that, I want to go into another thing we need to think seriously about. Why do people do the wrong things in life? Because there is no accountability. Now, I'm going to tie this all together before we're done. There's no accountability. I believe that there's a hereafter, and I believe there's going to be a day of judgment where we're judged for the things that we've done on this earth. And so that causes me to try to do better. That's accountability. There's not much accountability in our law system anymore. People can do all kinds of stuff and get away with it these days. But I'm going to tell you, on the hereafter, there's going to be an accountability, and you're not going to escape it, and I'm not going to escape it. I want to stand before the creator of all of this, and I want him to say, come over here on this side. I got something waiting for you, and you're going to love it. That's what I want. And I don't do all of this because I'm afraid of what God will or won't do. That has a factor in it. But it's the love for the world I live in and the people I live with that causes me to want things to be better. Okay, guys, let's summarize this. Summarized is, this world's broken and we can't fix it. If we don't turn away from the way we're doing things and turn toward the Creator, this world is not going to get any better. Once we turn toward Him, we'll have hope. And once we have hope, we'll have a direction, and we'll be able to apply our faith toward that direction. Once we do that, and we understand that we're going to be accountable at the end of our life for what we did, we live in peace because we know that when we stand before our Maker, we're going to have done the right thing as best we knew how. Now, it doesn't mean you'll be perfect, But what it does mean is you'll have done the best you know how. And that's really all that our Creator asks us to do. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. It's a little longer than usual, but it's just something that I wanted to get off my heart and hand it out to you guys. We here at the Porch love you. We want the best for you. May God bless and have a good day.